Well, here I am in my usual well-worn sitting space. It's the easiest place I can sit when I'm having to fool with my iPad and get it situated and all that sort of thing. There's a lot of work into trying to do a video and get it right, and I rarely get it right, but at least I try. So I've got a lot to tell you, and I don't know exactly where to start, and I probably will start in the middle and go backward to the beginning. But I think I will go back a few years. In fact, I'm going to go back to when I decided to publish my book. Before that, I had been working on a family history. Wanted to get that family history recorded. Now this was, golly Moses, I think this was like 30 years ago. I just can't believe it's been that long, but it was. So I started writing and doing my research, and this time I was doing strictly family history. And when I got through, everything put together, I did not consider publishing the book because it was family history. I decided I'd just get it printed. Now, I had 60 copies printed. I did this for cousins, lots of cousins. I sent them letters telling them that I had done my family history, and if they wanted a copy, it would cost so much, and all I was asking was the shipping charges. And if they wanted a copy of my family history, they could let me know, send me a check. And they did. And 60 books went out, and this is the way they looked, like this. This says, room at the foot of the bed. You can see how it was printed. It's paperback. See inside, it's got all these little graphics. I went through magazines and everything I could find to get these little graphics. You see the little things. You can almost tell what I was talking about in my stories when you look at these graphics. Let's see if I can see one that, oh, here's one. I know exactly what I was talking about when I show you this little picture. See this right here? This was a picture of the iron furnace in Cumberland Gap, Tennessee. So those are the kinds of graphics I was using throughout the book. And it took, let's see how many pages I covered. Oh, by the way, let's look at this picture first. See that? That's the house my daddy built in 1924. That's the front porch. You can see lots of snow. That's Daddy's, I don't know if it's car or truck, sitting in front of the house. And that's about the best photograph I have of our house back in the, I think this was about in the 1950s, maybe 1960s, I'm not sure. But anyway, that's the house I grew up in. And this year, 2024, the house was 100 years old. So, I have how many pages here? Oh, you know how it is when you have to hunt something. 128 pages, and here's the picture of my mother. This is the picture when she was about 83 years old. So, She's got on corsage. She'd just been to a wedding. So anyway, I wanted to show you that, because this was the beginning of my writing and getting things published. This was only printed, and I sold all of the books. Okay, after I moved to Lexington, I've been here several years, and I was still working on stories. I was always telling stories to people. Now, every Thursday afternoon, we had a little jam session in one of the side rooms in the lobby. That's where the old folks would gather, and they'd bring their snacks and their drinks. Some had the little hot toddy type drinks, and of course I had my Dr. Pepper. Always had my Dr. Pepper, and we talked and we laughed, and it was just an enjoyable thing to do every Thursday. Well, this one Thursday, I was sitting next to a couple. In fact, they were my neighbors, just 2 doors down the hall from me, and he was a very quiet man, kind, you could tell, very kind, gentle person. And it seemed like each time we got together, somebody would point to me and say, "Pat, do you have a story for us?" Well, that was a dumb question. I'd always had a story for them. They knew that. So this man sitting next to me, he was older than I think in fact he's about 6 years older than I. And he didn't have much to say, but I told one of my crazy little stories and was talking to him about, he was asking about writing a book. And I said, well, I've written the book. I don't know how to get it published. I can't afford to go to a big publishing company. And he said, you take your book, you go down the street to the Carnegie Center. The Carnegie Center was a big old building right almost on the campus of Transylvania College. Yes, I knew where the Carnegie Center was, but I'd never been there before. He said, you go to the Carnegie Center, and they have professors, they have students from the University of Kentucky that can help you with your book. You can get it edited there, and they will help you find the publisher. And okay. And he insisted. He just insisted, you must go. You must take your book down to the Carnegie Center. They will do a good job for you, and you can get that done. You need to get that done. So I got to thinking about it, and I said, yeah, he's right. I've got to make the move. I see what I can do. Because I was never very confident about my writing or thinking I was good enough to publish a book. But with the way he put it, he made me feel like I could do it. So I did go to the Carnegie Center. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story has to do with a man named Andrew Carnegie. I know you all have heard of Andrew Carnegie. You can go to any state, any city, and they've got the Carnegie Center, just like Lexington has. That's where it is connected somewhat with the university because of the things they do to help students and to help citizens with publishing books. Okay, I went to the Carnegie Center and I was, I don't know, I hesitated to let someone look at my book because I thought they're going to laugh at me and say, "You want to get this published?" Well, the young man that was looking it over, he was going to edit the book for me. And he was very pleasant. He was building my confidence immediately, making me feel good. And he said he would read through it, which he did. I went back, several days later, gave him plenty of time to read and edit my book. So I sat down with him, talked, and I'm flipping through the book, that I've got. It didn't look, this is the finished copy. But I had the draft. And I'm looking through, and I don't see any red pencil marks anywhere. I don't see any arrows or anything circled. And I said, "But you haven't marked anything." He said there wasn't anything to mark. He said, "I didn't find anything wrong, and you know how to spell, you know how to punctuate. There was no problem there, and I definitely was not going to change the wording of your stories. You just don't rearrange someone else's words. You don't quote them and change the quote. You tell it like they said it." Well, I thought my book would be marked in red all over, and he'd be marking lines out like, "Leave this out, you don't need that." No, not a single mark was on my draft. I walked out of the Carnegie Center feeling pretty good, really good. So, okay, after that, I had to get someone to help me get it published. So I went back again, and the young man that I talked to was an author himself. In fact, Jan was with me. I needed her to lean on and to back me up with whatever I said or did. And so I was so backward. I thought, I'm going to be so embarrassed when he starts reading and saying, I didn't know what he was going to say. I didn't even know if he was going to agree to tell me how. And you've got to set the book up, everything, do from scratch, getting it ready for publishing. And in talking to him, and he'd read some of it, he liked what he read, and he said to me, "You write like Irma Bombeck." Well, what better compliment could anybody have than to be told they wrote like Irma Bombeck? I had Irma Bombeck books here, and of course she's deceased, but everybody my age would remember her because her humor was just wonderful. Well, that was making me feel pretty good because this young man was on the New York Times bestseller list. He had 7 books on the bestseller list. And I'm asking him to read and help publish my book. I couldn't believe it. Then when he designed the cover. Well, Jan and I had decided on the title. I was like, what do you call a book when it's a book of short stories? 100 short stories are in this book. And they're all true stories, too. I mean, I didn't fabricate a thing. Told it just like it was, or just the way I remembered it to be. And so, anyway, this is the cover he came up with. And you see, it says, wait till you hear this one. Well, you notice the U is at a slant. And Jan asked him, Andrew, did you slant that word on purpose, or did it just come out that way? He said, I did it on purpose because it gives it the Irma Bombeck look. Now, I couldn't ask for a better compliment than that. Now, having told you this, that book was published in 2017. And after that, I published a second book, which was a continuation of this one, and I called it, Hold It, Lord, Hold It. I'm not finished yet. That was the second book, and then there was the third book called Make Mine the Blue Plate Special. That was my cookbook. That was Andrew's suggestion, that because I had included my recipes in with Hold It, Lord, Hold It. And he said, it's too many pages. You need to divide them up. Do a third book and let it be all of your recipe, because I had little stories that went with each recipe. So that's what I did. So I've published 3 books. Now, time passes. My friend, my neighbor, he passes away. So one day, this was months later, one day I'm talking to his wife in her condo and discussing her husband and the fact that he helped me, that he was the reason I got my 3 books published, because he insisted, and he had faith in me. He felt like I could do it. Well, while I was talking to her, she handed me a book. I'm going to show you that book. I hope I can show it to you. You might not be able to read it when you have to read it backwards. This book says, Cumberland Island Saved. Now, if you live in the state of Georgia, you probably know exactly what that means. This right here is what's called Cumberland Island, little map. And the author of this book says how the Carnegies helped preserve a national treasure. The Carnegies? Andrew Carnegie? His brother Tom? Tom Carnegie was this man's grandfather. This book was written by my neighbor. It has the most beautiful photographs. All kinds of photographs taken in the early 1900s. And there was the Carnegie Mansion. The Carnegie family owned 10,000 acres on Cumberland Island. I started reading this book that my neighbor wrote. His name was Joe Graves. His grandmother was a Carnegie. His great-grandmother, whose husband was Carnegie, he died, and she was 39 years old, left with 9 children. But they, at this point, I don't know where it came in, how much acreage they owned, but 10,000 acres of woodland and island on the border of Georgia. That's a lot of land to me. And I've seen in this book, it shows the Carnegie Mansion. The Carnegie Mansion is a beauty. I would like to go through the book and show you some of the pictures, but and there's so much information. In fact, this was my neighbor's father. That little boy was his father, living on Cumberland Island. This is more or less a documentary of Cumberland Island and the one Carnegie family. But it's a book worth reading. And I am just so pleased that my neighbor gave me this book. And it was her husband, a Carnegie descendant, who talked me into having my books published. Now, to me, that's saying a lot. I remember one day him telling me, now this was when he and his mother, I'm sure, were living here in Lexington years ago. And he was on I think both of them were part of the Historic Commission for Lexington. Well, you know, Lexington's never been very good about preserving their history. They've torn down a lot of buildings that should have been preserved. But it reached a point where the Hunt Morgan House, now if you're from Kentucky or anywhere around Lexington, you know what I'm talking about when I say the Hunt Morgan House, which is down on Main Street. They were getting ready to tear down the Hunt Morgan House. Oh no, that wasn't going to happen. Joe Graves and his mother on the Historic Commission, he told me that she sat down in front of a big piece of equipment. I don't know what kind of big machine it is that comes in and tears down buildings. But she sat down right in front of that machine on the ground, and she wouldn't move. Absolutely, she wasn't going to get up, and they couldn't make her. She was not going to let them tear down one of the historic buildings in Lexington. They had torn down one after another, but this one was going to be saved. The Hunt Morgan House still stands right down at the end of Main Street. I was in it one time, and it's been years ago. I really should go back again and look through it. It's during the times of, Abraham Lincoln period. And to think, my neighbor and his mother helped save the Hunt Morgan House. My neighbor's family He and his family are descendants of Andrew Carnegie. Next time you come across a building or a library or anything that is in reference to Andrew Carnegie, keep in mind one of his descendants helped me get my book published. Think about that. Joe Graves helped me. He sent me to the Carnegie Center, and they helped me publish this book. See the name at the bottom? Patricia Eastep O'Neill. That's me. I never really felt confident that I was a writer. I'm not a writer. I think of myself as a storyteller. That's good enough for me. But I want to tell good stories. I want to tell funny stories. I just don't have that comedian, natural manner about being funny. And you gotta have it if you want people to laugh. I can get a laugh now and then when I don't mean to, and I think we all do that. But I started reading my neighbor's book this afternoon. Oh, I just took the card out where I left off. But it's a fantastic book. It's well written. Everything about it holds your interest. He starts with the beginning. This family came from Scotland. They lived in Philadelphia. They bought property there. And there are pictures after pictures. Now, whoops, I'm not holding it right. Kind of hard to. This man right here was my neighbor's father, and that's his mother. And you can see back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, they did have good photography on that island. They could afford good photography. And I've had this book about 2 years now, at least 2 years. And I didn't realize, let me show you what the Carnegie Mansion looked like. Just give me a, hope you can see this. This top picture. See that picture right there? That was the Carnegie Mansion on Cumberland Island. My neighbor had just come back from there when I saw her today. Her door was standing open. I'd walked down the hall and I saw her door standing open, and I thought, I'll just step inside. I could see her sitting at a table. She was watching the inauguration on TV, and she seemed very pleased with what she saw. And she said, you remember the time that you asked me about a family that lived on Cumberland Island? And I said yes, because the lady had made contact with me on YouTube. Oh, how I wish I could remember the lady's name. She and her husband lived on Cumberland Island. And she had contacted me, and I'm telling her that my neighbor and her husband were from Cumberland Island. Well, she knew who they were. I have forgotten her name. If you are still watching me on YouTube, please get in touch with me, because I'm the world's worst at remembering people's names, because I had some information that my neighbor wanted to give to you. We didn't manage to get together the first time we made contact on YouTube, and she just came from Cumberland Island. She goes with her family, and she stays about a month, and she just come home, and she wanted to tell me about going to the north end of the island, where the freed blacks had bought homes in the northern part of Cumberland Island. She was explaining it to me, and she was talking about going to the cemetery, and she saw the tombstone of the lady I'm trying to connect with. His tombstone is there in one of those cemeteries on Cumberland Island. And I couldn't remember the lady's name, but I think her husband's first name was Grunder. If that was your husband, get in touch with me on YouTube, because I think my neighbor now would have some good information for you, because she told me about going through the cemetery, and when she saw that tombstone, she says, "Oh, my husband and I knew this family." So that's kind of exciting when you make discoveries like that, and you can reacquaint yourself with the old days. We're talking about a long time ago. So, ma'am, I'm waiting to hear from you, and I'm sorry that I didn't get back with you with more information in the beginning. We just lost contact. But I think you'll be pleased to know that my neighbor had found the cemetery and the gravestone of your husband. Now, I've just finished watching the president and Melania and the vice president and his wife doing their dance. You know what it's like to be on a stage and hundreds of people are watching you dance? Now, Melania's dressed perfect. She always chooses the right thing. Very pretty dress, not overdone, not underdone. Because beautiful lady, it doesn't take much to make her look pretty. But I watched the two couples dancing, and you know what I thought? Those two men need to take dancing lessons. When you're getting in front of millions of people watching you on a stage dancing, you ought to know a few dance steps. Neither one of them did. And I kept waiting and waiting. Come on, let's follow the music. Let's do the steps right. No, I think they want to take their wives out dancing. They need to go to Arthur Murray's dance studio and learn a few dance steps. It wouldn't hurt if they learned a little bit of polka and the cha-cha-cha. Cha-cha-cha is a really good dance. I used to do that myself. Not bragging, it just I just knew how. And I was with a group when I was younger. My kids were teenagers, but I'd always wanted to dance, so I learned how. Not perfect, but I could follow a good dancer. I knew a good dancer, and I didn't wait for them to ask me to dance. I walked up and asked them, would you dance with me? It was fun. One of the most fun things I've ever done is joining a dance group. Once you learn the steps, you can't help but enjoy it. And that's why I've got stacks of 33 RPM record albums of Ray Conniff, Glenn Miller, we can go on down, Jerry Vale. Oh gosh. I used to dance all over the living room when I'd put on a Jerry Vale album. And there's so many orchestras and dance groups. Yeah, those days are over, but I can dream about them, talk about them a little bit, and remember how much fun it was. So, that's all I was going to tell you for today. I went in the kitchen thinking I really need to do a cooking video, but Billy Jean, he does such a terrific job with his cooking, and I can guarantee you that any recipe that he gives you, it's worth trying, because he's a very good, very good cook. And I don't really work in the kitchen because I'm cooking just for me. And I hate to be preparing big dishes of things for show when there's nobody to help me eat it after I've finished. But tonight I got in the kitchen, this afternoon, I pulled some frozen chicken out and thawed it and stuck it in a pot. I thought, yeah, I'm going to make my chicken casserole. I think I'll make chicken casserole. So I stewed the chicken, and while I was at it, I said, I might as well throw in some celery and onions and carrots, because I can take some of that chicken and make a meal out of it without making a casserole, which is what I did. So I ate part of that, and I made a skillet of cornbread. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I used my little 8-inch skillet. I've had it at least 50 or 60 years. Don't even remember where I got it. But it just makes the best cornbread. So there I was eating my fresh coleslaw. Nobody makes coleslaw like I do. Yes, I'm bragging. I'm bragging because I make it the way I like it. And most people don't make their coleslaw the way I like it. So I had coleslaw, potatoes. No, I didn't have potatoes. I just had the carrots and chicken. What else did I have? And my cornbread. Didn't need anything else because it was so good. So when I went in the kitchen to get my Dr. Pepper so that I'd come in and talk to you, I wanted something to drink. because I'm thirsty right now, and I'm going to take a little sip. It's good. Yes, it's good. Refreshing. So I'm getting ready to put my food in containers, put them in the refrigerator. Tomorrow I'll cook some potatoes to go with it. I'll have the same thing again. I'm not sure I'm going to get around to doing the chicken casserole this time. I may save that for later, because what I had to eat today, I can definitely eat again tomorrow. And I'm not ready to get out yet with the snow. It was so cold today. I went down to the lobby, stepped out the front door, and that wind hit me in the face, and I said, I'm not going anywhere as long as it's that cold. So I'm stocked up with my bread and I got all kinds of potatoes, the red potatoes, the sweet potatoes, the little fingerling potatoes, what else? Yeah, Irish potatoes. Yeah, we could have a potato party. Yeah, actually we could go up on the roof and we could throw potatoes at each other instead of snowballs. Stupid talk, just stupid talk, but it's just a fun thing. I'm looking at one of my Christmas cards. I've got it laid out because this card came from England. You might even recognize it. Yeah. It's so delightful when you receive cards from other countries. And I've got one friend in Canada. I'm not going to say her name. She knows who she is, because she says the funniest things. And she sends the cutest little cartoon figures and what have you. And I try to send back something to make her smile. And I think she does smile when she sees my responses, just like I do when I see her comments or her those little cartoon figures and things. She really knows how to pick them. So when I go on Facebook, that's the first thing I look for, to see if she's sent any messages and showing me something funny to laugh at. But I'm going to tell you this, folks. Facebook is going to pot. They don't have anything that I care to even read. It's all crap. These arrows and these reels and all that stuff. You can't read something without having to go to something else to get the answer to it, and then you still don't get the answer to it unless you connect to an ad. Now, I'm not fooling with that kind of stuff. I want to talk to my friends. I want to hear how they are. I want a pleasant greeting from them. If they've been sick, I want to know they feel better. If they've been on vacation, where did you go? Yeah, you're making me jealous if you've been on vacation. But you're also giving me information to tell me good places to go if I decide to go on vacation. The birthdays are always great. It makes people feel good when they, especially when they see names that they haven't seen in a long time. They know their friend is still there. So, Facebook, no, they're going to have to do something drastic. because it's going to lose a lot of people. And I was watching Facebook when I first turned the iPad on for this story. And what I saw was not fit to watch. Nothing. So, it's the last thing I go to nowadays. And very rarely do I read anything that's interesting. It's a shame it gets that way. I don't know what can be done to change it, but it does have to be changed, or the people are going to drop off one by one, and they're not going to be bothered with Facebook anymore. So I left you with not a good note, but a bad note, but it's an informative note. And I'm going to have to start coming up with some good stories, because it seems that my monetization is dropping instead of increasing. And that doesn't make sense to me. Of course, I didn't start this to make money in the beginning. But when I learned that I could make money just from telling these crappy little stories that you sit there and laugh at and watch me and feel sorry for me, all that kind of stuff, you know how that goes. And it works. So I need to get not necessarily more subscribers, more viewers. People need to be watching me, so you tell your friends and your neighbors, Granny Pat wants you to watch her channel. Yeah, lay the law down to them. Well, I think I'm going to turn off my TV. I'm going to check out a few YouTubers and see what Billie Jean has cooking tonight. I know he did something with blueberries and bananas today. I don't have the bananas, but I've got the blueberries. And I've got one of those little blueberry mixes that I could fix. But I'm not in the mood right now. I might do that tomorrow. You take care. Let me know if there's anything interesting you want to talk about, or that you think I might know. I might know, a few things, and I try to answer the best I can. I'm ready to tell stories anytime. You said you liked my longer stories. I'll probably have to cut down to like 15, 20 minutes. I can do that. So that may be what I'll start doing now, instead of having 45, 55-minute stories. I'll cut them down to about 20 minutes, and maybe I can have more things to talk about. Okay. Hope you've enjoyed this one. And do this. Check with Amazon. Check at your bookstores and see if you can get this book. If you can, especially if you live in the state of Georgia, you look at the beautiful birds. Oh, wildlife. Fantastic. I didn't know I had such a good book in my hand when my neighbor gave this to me. But it's one I'm going to take care of. Especially when I can say, oh, I knew that man. He's the one that got me started publishing my books. And I want to thank him upstairs. Yeah, thank you, Joe. So you have a good day tomorrow. And I need to start cleaning house. It's not exactly what you call spring cleaning. It's pre-spring cleaning. So if you want to come over and help me, the door is unlocked. See you later, folks. Thank you.